Well, good morning. It's 8 o'clock. It's top of the hour, so we're ready to rock and roll here. Good morning. Thank you all for joining us. I'm John Casper with the Chamber, and with us as always is Angela Bergstrom with Step into Humility. She's been doing these bite-sized learning series for us. I think since July or so we've been doing these, and they're great programs, and people are enjoying them. So we're going to be doing something a little different today for those of you who are joining us. Angela, I'm assuming you have a PowerPoint that you'll be going through, and you'll share that with everybody. And as we go through that and go into the Q&A portion of the program at the end, I've unmuted everybody, or given you the opportunity to unmute yourself. So instead of, you can still use the tab for Q&A on the bottom if you wish, or we could get into a discussion, which we're hoping we can do with the group at that time. So if when that discussion time comes, if all you have to do is just unmute yourself, and then you can participate with in that discussion that way. This is being recorded and will be up online later today. So with that, I am going to turn over to Angela.
All right, thank you, John. If you all bear with me for just a moment, I'm going to get my screen share up and running here. I like to have some imagery for people to see. I think we're so used to looking at things on screens, and so I always like to make sure that I've got some imagery going here. So let me get this up and running. Make sure it looks like, okay, it looks like it's up and running. John, can you see the screen all right?
Yes,
okay.
I can. I just had to unmute myself here.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. All right. Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for joining today's bite-sized learning. And I also want to just say thank you to John and the Oshkosh Chamber for continuing to invite me back to provide these bite-sized learnings and these programs to the membership. I really appreciate the opportunity. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Angela Bergstrom, and I am a certified leadership development coach, trainer, and speaker who values personal growth and development. Any of you that have been on my programs probably already figured that out. Through my business, Step into Humility Leadership Solutions, I help individuals and organizations grow and develop strong and effective leaders from frontline to C-suite and everything in between. And my specialties include servant leadership, a topic I'm particularly passionate about, as well as interpersonal skills, communication, culture, relationships, and team building. So we're wrapping up a 3-part series that we started back in December with the theme of personal growth in the new year. Perfect opportunity, kicking off a new year. What does personal growth look like for all of you? So in December, we reviewed 2 invaluable laws of growth and how they can help you reach your potential. And we also covered how to actually develop and put together your personal growth plan for 2021. In January, our topic was becoming a person of influence, and we looked at ways to positively impact the lives of others through things like integrity and listening. And our subject this month, or this morning, is Today Matters. And what we're going to do is look at some daily practices that you can engage in to guarantee tomorrow's success. Now, throughout the past year of quarantine and stay-home orders, many people have turned to puzzles to pass the time and to entertain themselves. And when it comes to puzzles, there's nothing worse than getting all the way to the end, only to find that there's a missing piece, or maybe 2 pieces missing. It's so hard to enjoy the feeling of accomplishment and success when you have 499 pieces instead of all 500, or 999 instead of 1,000. And the same is really true of our days. When it comes to approaching the day, most people look forward to putting all the pieces in place, or all the pieces being there. But instead, what happens is our days often have missing pieces, or they just flat out fall to pieces. And as a result, they seem like very bad days. And I'm guessing a lot of you out there can probably relate to what I'm talking about. So I want to start things off with a series of questions, kind of a rapid fire of questions for you to chew on and think about for yourself as we go through the presentation today. First of all, how often do you have a great day where all the pieces line up perfectly? Is it the norm or is it a rare exception for you? And if I asked you to rate today on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being perfect, how would you rate it? Would you even know how to score it? Upon what would you base your rating? Would it depend upon how you feel? Would it be determined by how many items you've checked off your to-do list? We all have those wonderful to-do lists, right? Would you score your day according to how much time you've spent with someone you love and care about? How do you define success for today? That's the question I want you to carry with you. Now, people typically want to have a good day, but not many people know what a good day looks like, much less how to even create one. That whole concept of creating a good day, I think a lot of us probably just get up and our day unfolds as it is. So a lot of people don't really think about how do I actually create or make that good day. And even fewer people understand that the way you live today impacts your tomorrow. The root of the problem is that most people actually misunderstand success. And if we have a faulty view of success, guess what? We take a faulty approach to our day. And as a result, our day falls to pieces, or we have those missing pieces. So I want to take a minute here and just review some common misconceptions that people have about success. And maybe some of you out there can relate to these or have had some of these thoughts yourself. First one, we believe success is impossible, so we criticize it. We want to believe that life should be easy. Therefore, we sometimes assume that anything that's difficult, well, it just must be impossible. And when success eludes us, we are tempted to throw in the towel and assume that it's unattainable. And that's when we begin to criticize it. And especially when we see somebody else achieving success or experiencing success, a lot of us have a tendency to criticize it because we don't have it. Another misconception, we believe success is mystical, so we search for it. We believe that all we have to do to succeed is find the magic formula or that magic pill, that silver bullet or that golden key that will solve all of our problems. And the problem with that is we want the rewards of success without paying the price. There is no magic solution when it comes to success. Another misconception, we believe success comes from luck, so we hope for it. For example, being in the right place at the right time, or the idea of becoming an overnight success. When it comes to success, you're better off hopping to it than hoping for it. Another one, we believe success. This one is a big one. A lot of you, I think, are gonna have some interest in this one, maybe even disagree. We believe success is productivity, so we work for it. Now listen, working hard and producing results feels very rewarding. Okay, there's nothing wrong with hard work. But here's the thing, hard work and success are not one and the same. Hard work alone doesn't bring success. There are plenty of people who work hard and never see success. Think about it. Is a day that contains no work unsuccessful? Is someone who retires unsuccessful because they don't work anymore? They're not the same. And one more misconception I want to talk about. We believe success comes from an opportunity, so we wait for it. And the motto here is, if only. If only I could, if only I had, if only they would, then life would be perfect. People who do nothing more than wait for an opportunity won't be ready to capitalize on one if it does appear. It's like basketball legend John Wooden said, when opportunity comes, it's too late to prepare. People create success in their lives by focusing on today, not waiting for the magic, not hoping, not all those things. They focus on today. And here's why. It's too late for yesterday, and you can't depend on tomorrow. That's why today matters. And most of the time, we miss that. We miss that. And the question is why? Well, one reason is we over exaggerate yesterday. We over exaggerate yesterday. Our past successes and failures often look bigger to us in hindsight than they really were. Some people never get over their past accomplishments. Now, listen, there's nothing wrong with enjoying your accomplishments. But if it's a past accomplishment, we have to remember it's in the past. They'd rather spend more time thinking about when they were at the top instead of trying to reach that level again. Others focus on exaggerating what they could have done. Okay, here's the thing. Unpursued opportunities always look golden when it's too late to go after them. We've all probably had those situations in our lives. Boy, if I would have just taken a different path, I could be this today, or I could be doing this. Those opportunities always look golden when it's too late to go after them. And then there are the people whose negative experiences shape them for their entire lives. They relive every rejection, every failure, and every injury that they've ever received. So here's some food for thought on the topic of over-exaggerating yesterday. Yesterday ended last night. And no matter how badly we might have failed in the past, it's done. And today is a new day. Conversely, no matter what goals we may have accomplished or awards we may have received, they really have little direct impact on what we do today, because we can't celebrate our way to success. When we have success, we can celebrate it, but we can't celebrate our way to success. That makes sense. Another reason we miss the importance of today is because we overestimate tomorrow. When you think about tomorrow, what is your attitude toward the future? Do you tend to think things will get better or worse? Many people figure that tomorrow is just bound to be better, but here's the thing. They have no strategy for making it better. The worse some people feel about today, the more they exaggerate how good tomorrow is likely to be, but they don't have a strategy or have a plan in place for actually making it better. Okay, so some food for thought here. Hoping for a good future without investing in today is like a farmer waiting for a crop without ever planting any seed. Don't miss what you have within your grasp today because you are too focused on the future. Because guess what? Before you know it, your future will be your past. So again, I'm not saying you can't look ahead to the future, but just be careful that you're not overestimating the future, because sometimes when people focus too much on the future, they don't do what they need to do today to ensure that the future will be what you want it. So we over-exaggerate yesterday, we overestimate tomorrow, and we miss the importance of today because we underestimate today. Have you ever asked someone what they were doing and their response was, oh, I'm just killing time, right? I'm just wasting time. You know, maybe they got a few minutes before something. I'm just wasting time. Or maybe you've been the one doing the time killing. Some food for thought here on underestimating today. Today is the only time we have within our grasp, yet many people let it slip right through their fingers. They recognize neither today's value nor its potential. So how do you make today a great day instead of one that falls to pieces or has missing pieces? Well, here's the answer. Here's the missing piece. The secret of your success is determined by your daily agenda. It all comes down to what you do today. Now, listen, when I talk about your daily agenda, I know a lot of you are probably thinking of your calendar and all that stuff. I'm not talking about those things. I don't mean your to-do list. I don't mean your calendar. I don't even mean your daily planner. I'm focusing on something bigger than the day-to-day, the daily grind stuff that you get involved in. Successful people, here's the answer. Successful people make right decisions early, and they manage those decisions daily. If you think about it, there are only a handful of important decisions you really need to make in your entire life, especially about how you're going to live your life. So if you make decisions in key areas once and for all and then you manage those decisions daily, you can create the kind of tomorrow that you desire. And the earlier that you make those right decisions, the longer you manage them, the more successful you can become. So again, we're not talking about your daily schedule here. We're talking about the big decisions, the important decisions that you make in life on how you want to live your life, and making sure that you follow through and manage those decisions daily. And when we think about it, everyone has the power to impact the outcome of their life. Now, there are a lot of people that will disagree with that. Certainly, things do happen to us and they happen around us, and that affects us. But at the end of the day, we all still do have the power to impact the outcome of our life. We can choose how we respond to those things. We can choose how we move forward. The way to do it is to focus on today. Benjamin Franklin rightly observed, one today is worth two tomorrows. What I am to be, I am becoming now. You can make today a good day. And in the next section, we're going to look at 4 daily practices that can help you to seize your today. So starting with preparation, the way you live your life today is preparing you for your tomorrow, and you will never change your life until you change something you do daily. Okay, we can't just sit around and wait for it to magically go away. We have to make the decision to change something that we do daily if we want to change our life. The question is, what are you preparing for? You yourself, what are you preparing for? Are you grooming yourself for success, or are you grooming yourself for failure? The only adequate preparation for tomorrow is the right use of today. On 9/11, all but 13 Morgan Stanley employees made it safely out of the South Tower before it collapsed. Nearly 2,700 people owe their lives to a man who fiercely embraced adequate preparation and the right use of today. That man was Rick Rescorla. He was the head of security for Morgan Stanley, and he had served in that role since 1997. And some of you may remember back in 1993, there was actually a bomb attack that occurred, I believe it was in the basement of the Twin Towers, or at least one of the buildings. And following that attack in 93, Rescorla strongly believed that the towers would be attacked again. And he vowed that when it did, his employees would know exactly how to get to safety. So he developed an emergency evacuation plan, and he required the Morgan Stanley employees to practice it over and over, no matter how silly it seemed or inconvenient it was. There were even times, even if it was the CEO and it was time for his drill, if that CEO was in a meeting or on a phone call, it didn't matter. If it was time for the drill, Rick made sure that everybody followed that drill. Every day he prepared, adjusted, and practiced. No time was wasted in ensuring the safety of all Morgan Stanley employees, and the return was enormous. So on 9/11, when the North Tower was hit, the first tower, the Port Authority issued an announcement on the PA system in the South Tower instructing everyone to stay at their desks. But Rescorla immediately began the evacuation process. He wasn't wasting any time. Before the second plane struck the South Tower, his colleagues were on their way down the stairs and they were out the building. They knew exactly what they needed to do. There wasn't, chaos, there wasn't confusion. Because of his preparation, they knew exactly what to do. And Rescorla was quite a hero. He didn't stop trying to usher people to safety. And he was actually last seen near the 10th floor on his way up to help others. And when the South Tower did collapse, Rick was unfortunately still in the building and his body was never found. But to this day, many of those who survived are vocal about crediting Rescorla's planning and preparation for saving their lives. Preparation today gives confidence for tomorrow. When you look at today as preparation for the future, it paves the way for your success tomorrow. And one benefit of this mindset is confidence. When you invest today, it's like studying for the test of tomorrow. You're just better prepared to meet life's challenges. I'm sure all of us have taken tests, whether it was back in school, high school, elementary school, college, even for work, whatever. And I think we all know pretty well, if you don't study, you're not prepared and you don't have a whole lot of confidence. when you take that test. And this is very much the same thing. You're studying for the test of tomorrow. And in the story I just shared with you, Rick Rescorla, his preparation gave him confidence that when an attack occurred, his colleagues would be ready for it and they would know exactly what to do to get out alive. So his investment in preparing today, using every today he had effectively, resulted in 2,700 people having more tomorrows. Preparation today gives success tomorrow. It's like John Cotter says, most people don't lead their own lives. They accept their lives. The thing about that is people that accept their life are in repair mode all day, whereas people that lead their life are in prepare mode all day. If you're proactive, you focus on preparing, whereas if you're reactive, you end up focusing on repairing. And I want to just give you a comparison of the two. Preparing lets you focus on today. It increases efficiency. It increases confidence. Preparing saves money. It pays now for tomorrow, and it takes you to a higher level. Whereas repairing makes you focus on yesterday. It consumes time. It breeds discouragement. It increases costs. Repairing pays now for yesterday. Instead of like preparing, it pays now for tomorrow. Repairing pays now for yesterday. So you're always kind of behind, and it becomes an obstacle to growth. The bookends of success are starting and finishing. And there are two ingredients necessary to make every day that you have a masterpiece. I want you to think about, how can I make my day a masterpiece every single day? And those two ingredients are decisions and discipline. Decisions help us to start, whereas discipline helps us finish. It's akin to goal setting and goal getting. And these two things, they can't be separated because one is worthless without the other. And let me give you an example of what I mean. If you have good decisions, but you don't have the daily discipline, what you have is a plan without a payoff. You have the decisions, you don't have the discipline, it's a plan without a payoff. If you have daily discipline, but you don't have good decisions, you have a regimentation without reward. Whereas if you have good decisions and the daily discipline piece, well, now you have a masterpiece of potential. Your day can be that masterpiece you want to make it, and you have a ton of potential within that masterpiece. When we think about time, it is an equal opportunity employer, but how we treat time is not equal. Going back to John Wooden again, he once said, you have to give 100% every day. Whatever you don't give, you cannot make up for tomorrow. If you give only 75% today, you can't give 125% tomorrow or make up for it. In other words, what you do not accomplish today will not be accomplished. That which is lost today will always be lost. So good decisions today, coupled with the disciplines you practice today, will give you that better tomorrow. Need those two ingredients. In addition to adequate preparation, success also comes from choosing and displaying the right attitudes daily. And as I start talking about attitude, I think of a kind of an old parable or an older story where a Native American boy was talking with his grandfather. And he asked his grandfather, "What do you think about the world situation?" The grandfather replied, "I feel like wolves are fighting in my heart. One is full of anger and hatred. The other is full of love, forgiveness, and peace." And the little boy asked him, "Which one will win?" To which the grandfather replied, "The one I feed. The one I feed." When it comes to attitude, many people in this world mistakenly believe that their attitude is set and that it can't be changed. But that's not true. Your attitude is a choice. Your attitude is a choice. And if you desire to make your day a masterpiece, then you need to have a great attitude, or you need to feed a great attitude. And if it's not good now and you want to see success tomorrow, you need to change it. You need to make that decision. This is an example of one of those right decisions or big decisions that we can make is, I am going to make the decision to have a positive attitude daily, and then you practice the discipline of that. I want to share with you another story to kind of exemplify the difference in attitude. One day, a man was walking along the beach when he noticed a figure off in the distance. As he moved closer, he realized that the figure was that of an old man, carefully picking something up and gently tossing it into the ocean. So approaching the old fellow, he asked, "What are you doing?" The man replied, "Well, I'm throwing this starfish back into the ocean. It washed up on the beach last night during high tide and was left stranded." And the old man, he went on to explain that he walked the beach every morning when the sun came up and the tide was going out, and he would pick up starfish and toss them back to safety. And he explained that if he didn't do it, then they would all die. "Sir," the man said, "don't you realize there are miles and miles of beach and thousands of starfish? You can't possibly make a difference, you know." Well, after listening politely, the old man, he bent down and he gingerly picked up another starfish. And he carefully tossed it into the surf and smiled. And then he replied, "I made a difference for that one." The reason I share this story is I feel like it illustrates the difference between the outcome of a good attitude and a bad attitude. The good attitude was encouraging and it led to a few starfish being saved, whereas the bad attitude was discouraging and it didn't lead to any starfish being saved. You cannot have a bad attitude and encourage others at the same time. Can't have a bad attitude and encourage others at the same time. Now, while it is possible for people with great talent or drive to achieve success with a bad attitude, and we know this happens, it doesn't happen very often, and it takes an incredible amount of effort. And even if they do achieve some degree of success, they aren't happy, and they usually make the people around them miserable too. Most often, people with bad attitudes don't get very far in life. On the other hand, even barely average people can do great things when their attitudes are great. So here's why attitude makes such a difference as you approach your day. Your attitude at the beginning of a task or at the beginning of a day affects its outcome more than anything else. Okay, you've all probably heard the phrase, "all's well that ends well." Well, what if we spun that instead to say, "all's well that begins well"? The confident person increases their chances for success, or if you have a positive attitude, you increase your chances for success, whereas the pessimist or the bad attitude invites the negative outcome that he or she expects. So I want you to think about, what is your attitude at the beginning of each day or at the beginning of a new experience or a new task? Think about how you feel. Are you excited? Are you cautious? Are you negative? How do you feel? If those experiences are areas critical to your success, then you need to make an adjustment in your attitude. When you approach a task, especially an important one that you maybe don't really care for, or that you don't relish, or that you're not particularly excited about, it can be really easy for our attitudes to kind of be a little more on the negative side. But when you approach that situation, fix your mind on the facts, not on the feelings. Focus on the possibilities, not on the problem or the discomfort. That will put your attitude on the right track. And if your attitude starts on the right track, it's more likely to end up at the right destination. Some other things to consider when we talk about attitude: your attitude toward others often determines their attitude toward you. Your attitude can give you a winner's perspective. Your attitude, not your achievement, gives you happiness. And your attitude, this is probably the most important one, your attitude is contagious. What do you want to spread? Think of your attitude spreading as quickly as COVID, right? Do you want your attitude to spread in a positive way or in a negative way? The bottom line on attitude is that a good one helps to increase your possibilities and your potential for success. So if you want to benefit from the possibilities of a positive attitude, you need to do more than just make the decision to be positive. Remember, there's two ingredients, the decision and the discipline. You also have to manage that decision. And here are some guidelines to help you on your way. So first one, recognize that your attitude needs daily adjustment. Recognize that your attitude needs daily adjustment. It isn't static, okay? Like any discipline, your attitude will not take care of itself. You need to attend to it daily. Next one, find something positive in everything. Look, it may not always be easy, okay, especially current situation. But if you try hard enough, you can find something good, even in the midst of some of the most difficult situations. Another thing you can do, find someone positive in every situation. Nothing helps a person to remain positive like a positive ally. Remember what I said, attitude is contagious. So if you find yourself around negative people, there's a good chance you're going to catch that negative. Whereas if you surround yourself or find some people that tend to be more positive, your chances of remaining positive are higher. Create an immunity to the negative. Another thing you can do, say something positive in every conversation. You know, things like sincerely complimenting or praising, acknowledging, raising up, rewarding, bolstering people whenever you can. Obviously, you need to be genuine about that, but I think, you know, a lot of us, it's really easy for us to judge people or to focus on the negative or the things that we don't like or the things that irritate us. If we can flip that around and instead focus on the positive aspect of things, say something positive. If other people hear those positive things coming from your mouth, there's a good chance they might catch on to that versus spewing out negative. Speaking of negative, remove negative words or phrases from your vocabulary. Things like, I can't, if only, I don't think, I don't have the time, I have to, maybe, I'm afraid. Replace those with positive words or phrases like, I can, I will, I know, I will make time, I want to, I get to, I'm confident. There's a huge difference just in the words that we use. And one more guideline, express gratitude to others daily. Of all the virtues, gratitude seems to be one of the least expressed. So thinking about good things helps us to be grateful. Remaining grateful helps us then to have a more positive attitude. So just to kind of give you a little bit of some questions you can ask yourself here when you think about your attitude and you want to assess and reflect on your attitude. You know, one you might want to ask right now, talking about, you know, making the right decision and following through with that discipline. Have I made the decision to choose and display the right attitude daily? If so, when did I make that decision? If not, when will I make that decision? And another one that I use pretty regularly, just as I'm going throughout my day, is my attitude a plus or a minus right now? Or when I get up in the morning, is my attitude a plus or a minus today? If I check that frequently, it helps me to stay alert and aware to my attitude. Obviously, as we go through our days, you know, it might start out really well, but as we go through the daily grind of things, we all know that it can be really difficult sometimes to maintain that positive attitude. So if you constantly do some check-ins with yourself and say, oh, hey, how am I doing? Am I a plus or a minus right now? That can help you to stay on track with your positive attitude and manage that positive attitude. Definitely takes work. Next, we're going to look at priorities. So focused concentration is one of the keys to success. And I want you to catch what I'm going to say. I'll say it twice. I want you to hear this. Devoting a little of yourself to everything means committing a great deal of yourself to nothing. Let me say that again. Devoting a little of yourself to everything means committing a great deal of yourself to nothing. To have focus, you must understand priorities. Time is our most precious commodity because when you lose time, it's gone forever. Your priorities determine how you spend your time. And again, time is very, very precious. Have you ever found yourself thinking, oh, I need more time. If I only had just a little more time, or if I only had a couple more hours in a day? The reality is you aren't going to get it. No one gets more time. There are exactly 1,440 minutes in a day. And no matter what you do, you won't get more today. Furthermore, what I often tell people is, look, even if you had 26 hours in a day, or let's say we had 30 hours in a day, guess what? If you don't have your priorities straight and you're not focused, you're still not going to have enough time to get everything done that you want to get done. It's not a matter of having more time. It's a matter of how you work your time and how you organize your time. To that end, time management, it has nothing to do with the clock, but everything to do with organizing and controlling your participation in certain events that coordinate with the clock. You can't save time, lose time, turn back the hands of time, or have more time tomorrow than you did today. Time is unemotional, uncontrolled, unencumbered. It moves forward regardless of circumstances. And since you can't change time, you must instead change your approach to it. Understanding that we cannot do everything is one way to change your approach. It's like Chinese author and philosopher Lin Yutang said, besides the noble art of getting things done, there is the noble art of leaving things undone. The wisdom of life consists of the elimination of the non-essentials. A lot of times we get so hung up in those non-essentials that we don't have time for the priorities and the important stuff. Excellence comes from doing the right things right. You've got to let go of the rest. Now, if you're not sure what the right things are, I'm going to give you an exercise that you can do for yourself. It might sound a little morbid, but it's a good exercise to practice. Pretend that you only have 6 months to live, or maybe a year to live. The things you would do in that short time are very likely the right things. You know, a lot of times when people are in those situations, they talk about, I'm going to travel the world, or I'm going to spend as much time as possible with my family. If those are things you would do on a limited timetable, those are the things that you should be focusing on and making priorities now. Everything that you now do is something you have chosen to do. A lot of people will disagree with that, but it's true. Everything you're doing is a decision that you have made. It's something you've chosen to do. Even if things have come at you and you're doing them, you still made the choice. Your life is what you're making of it now. To change your life, you need to change your priorities. People who reach their potential and fulfill their dreams determine and act on their priorities daily. If you want to change the way you look at yourself and what you do by making a decision concerning your priorities, you can start by taking back today. I don't know if anyone's ever heard that phrase before, but taking back today. I want you to consider the words of poet Carl Sandburg. Time is the most valuable coin in your life. You and you alone will determine how that coin will be spent. Be careful that you do not let other people spend it for you. So I want you to think about that. How many coins are you letting other people spend for you? Listen, your greatest possession is the 24 hours you have directly ahead of you. And you need to ask yourself, how will you spend it? Will you give in to the pressure, or will you focus on your priorities? If you don't decide how your day will be spent, guess what? Someone else will. So there are 3 questions you can ask yourself, 3 critical questions to ask yourself when you're trying to figure out what your priorities are. And I call these the 3 R's. The first one is, what is required of me? What is required of me? Any realistic assessment of priorities in any area of your life must start with a realistic assessment of what a person must do. Okay? There's a difference between what you must do and what you think you have to do. Huge difference. So focus in on what's required of you, what's truly required. The second question, what gives me the greatest return? What gives me the greatest return? Some activities will yield a much higher return for the effort than others do. And you have to think about what is important to you with that return. Is it a financial return? Is it an emotional return? Is it time with your family? What kind of return do you get from that? Is there a different return you get from work? I mean, you have to think about what really gives you the greatest return in what you're doing. And then the third question is, what gives me the greatest reward? What gives me the greatest reward? If you do only what you must and what is effective, you will be highly productive, but you may not be content. Remember what I said earlier, it's not always about that hard work. You may not be content. It's also important to consider what gives you personal satisfaction. So what is required of me? What gives me the greatest return? What gives me the greatest reward? If you bring your priorities into focus by answering those three questions, you will have a much better idea of what you should be overlooking. So kind of like the image on the screen, if you're one of those people that you have notes everywhere, ask yourself these questions. What's required? What gives me the greatest return? What gives me the greatest reward? You may find that there's a couple of notes you can probably take down from your list, or you can delegate to other people. Priorities shift very easily. Unfortunately, once we get our priorities set, they're always going to be changing. They shift very easily, and for that reason, they must be continually evaluated and guarded. And keep in mind, there's always going to be people out there who want to shift your priorities for you. So to manage the discipline of priorities, a couple things you can do. Number one, practice evaluating your priorities daily. Okay, practice evaluating them daily. Priorities don't stay put. You have to revisit them every day because conditions continually change, as well as the methods of getting things done. Second thing you can do, plan your time carefully. In the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, Stephen Covey refers to this as scheduling the big rocks, the important things that you must do. And during his workshops, he would do an exercise where he had an empty bucket. Off to the side, he had several, big rocks, probably about the size of your palm, big rocks, and he would label them with important things like family, health, self-care, work. He'd put a bunch of different things in there. And then he would also have a container filled with tiny rocks, kind of like aquarium gravel. And he would demonstrate the importance of scheduling the big things first. What he would do is he would fill the empty container with all the tiny rocks first. And then he would try to fit all the big rocks in. And no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't make it work. Even when he tried forcefully to wedge those big rocks in. I mean, he would hit those things and pound on those rocks, trying to get them into that bucket, and he couldn't do it. He couldn't get all the big rocks in. So he would do it a second time, and on the second try, he did things a little differently. He started by putting all of the big rocks in first, and then he would pour the tiny rocks into the container. And guess what? They all fit. They all fit. The point he was making is that there will always be room for the little stuff, but there won't always be room for the big stuff, the important stuff, the priorities. Plan your time carefully with your priorities in mind. Focus on the big rocks first. Get those done, and then let all the little stuff fall in. So, again, practice evaluating priorities daily, plan your time carefully, and then the third step is follow your plan. Follow your plan. German novelist Johann Wolfgang von Goethe said, "Things that matter most must never be at the mercy of things that matter least." If you prioritize your life and plan your day, but you don't follow through, your results will be exactly the same as those of someone who did not prioritize at all. Follow your plan. Stick to it. If you want to increase your focus and become effective on a level you've never experienced before, then you need to make a decision to prioritize your life and then manage the discipline of priorities every day. And the last one we're going to look at is values. Your values are the principles that guide your decisions and your behaviors. When those values are good, they bring only benefits, never harm to yourself and others. Okay, when we talk about values, your core values are critical to success. And here's a question for you. How do you make good decisions during life's inevitable rough times if you don't have values? When you have strong values, you have something that holds you steady, even when the weather of life gets nasty. Because your core values are deeply held beliefs that authentically describe your soul, they become a companion to you throughout your life. I like to think of our values as being our North Star. Okay, just like your circumstances, the way you live your life is constantly changing. You acquire new skills, new disciplines, new habits. Practices always change according to the situation. But our values don't change. If you have those true core values, they don't change. They are always dependable to guide you, kind of like your life compass. If you want to be proactive in the way you live your life, if you want to influence your life's direction, if you want your life to exhibit the qualities that you find desirable, and if you want to live with integrity, then you need to know what your values are. You need to know what your values are. Decide to embrace them and then practice them every day. And this is an area that a lot of people don't really spend a lot of time on. I ask a lot of people the question, what are your values? What are your top values? And a lot of times people don't know how to answer that because their values are not front and center. They're not top of mind awareness. So the first step in deciding to practice good values is to create a list of good values. Like I said, many people struggle to answer when they're asked what their top values are. So spend some time identifying the values that are important to you, and then sort and prioritize those values. Once you identify your values, the next step is to clarify and embrace those values. And then from there, the last step is to make a decision to live those values daily. True life change begins when you decide to change your value system, to really focus on your values, because it's foundational to everything you do. Having values keeps a person focused on the important things. So again, we just talked about priorities. If you let your values guide you, that should also help you to figure out what your priorities are. For example, if family is a value for you, then that will likely be one of your priorities. If health is a value to you, that will become a priority, whether it's meal planning or it's exercising or whatever health means to you. Managing your life according to your values isn't easy. And you might be asking why? Well, because your values, this is really important, I want you to catch this, because your values will be tested daily by those who do not embrace them. We talked about attitude. Negative people may discount you when you display a positive attitude. If positive attitude is one of your values, people may discount you if they have a negative attitude. When you talk about priorities, those whose priorities are different from yours will try to convince you to follow them or to make unwise compromises. Your values will be tested daily. So a couple things you can do to become better at embracing and practicing your values every day. Number one, articulate and embrace your values daily. Articulate and embrace your values daily. Once you've created your list of values, write a descriptive statement for each one explaining how you intend to apply it to your life and what benefit or direction that will bring for you. And then you want to keep that document where you can see it every day. Remember, out of sight, out of mind. So if you write this list and you throw it off to the side, you bury it in a drawer, throw it off somewhere, stick it on your bookshelf, whatever, you're going to forget about it. So keep it where you can see it every day. Think about your values often to help them soak in, to help them become weaved in the fabric of you. As you go through your day and you face decisions, measure your choices against your values. Another thing you can do, compare your values to your practices daily. Compare your values to your practices daily. The gap between knowing and doing is significantly greater than the gap between ignorance and knowledge. Let me say that one more time. The gap between knowing and doing is significantly greater than the gap between ignorance and knowledge. Discrepancies between values and practices will create chaos in a person's life. In other words, if you talk your values, but you neglect to walk them, then you will continually undermine your integrity and your credibility. So don't say you have a value and then you don't live it out. That's really what that's saying. Compare your values to your practices daily. If you feel like your practices aren't, parallel to your values, if they're not in good company, then you need to figure out how to change your practices. Or maybe you need to reevaluate your values. Another thing you can do, live out your values regardless of your feelings. Live out your values regardless of your feelings. Many people get into trouble when their values and their feelings collide. When you're feeling good and everything's going your way, it's not difficult to consistently live out your values. However, when your values determine that you should take an action that will hurt you or cost you something, it can be harder to follow through. So let me give you an example of what I mean by that. Let's say that you were walking down the street and you found a bag of money, like a bank bag of money, like a deposit bag, and you suspect that maybe it was stolen or lost. You probably wouldn't have too difficult of a time turning the money in. In fact, you would feel good about that decision because you did the right thing. But what if you saw your boss stealing from the company and you knew that calling attention to it would likely get you fired? That choice would be more difficult because you have a lot to lose. And by the way, that action probably isn't going to feel very good because now you have to rat out your boss. Okay? Successful people do what's right no matter how they feel about it. So if you have a value of honesty or trust, doing the right thing, if you have strong integrity, if that's a value for you, it means you have to do the right thing at all times. This is an example of your actions matching your values. Successful people do what's right no matter how they feel about it. To be successful, your values, not your feelings, need to control your actions. And essentially what it comes down to is, living by your values, it means running in a different race than what a lot of us live, or a lot of us run in, or a lot of other people run in. We have to take a different approach. And one more thing you can do here, evaluate each day in light of your values. You can do a practice that Ben Franklin used to do. When you get up in the morning, ask yourself, what good will I do today? And when you go to bed, ask yourself, what good did I do today? If you have good values, it shouldn't be difficult to do good throughout the day, and you should easily be able to answer those questions. By choosing to embrace and practice good values every day, you choose the higher course in life, and your life goes in a direction that you will always feel good about. Look, you may not always get what you desire, but you will always be the person you desire to be. So as we wrap up this morning, just kind of want to review on everything we talked about, starting with make every day a masterpiece. Do things like focusing on your daily agenda. And remember that daily agenda means making right decisions early and managing them daily. It's not the to-do list. It's not your Outlook calendar. It's making those decisions, how you want to live your life, making the decision to use today as much as you possibly can to make the most of today. The only adequate preparation for tomorrow is the right use of today. Today's attitude gives me possibilities. Think about your attitude. Today's priorities give me focus, and today's values give me direction. Once you have made all the key decisions and each of the disciplines has become a habit in your life, they will become second nature to you. And when these disciplines are woven into the fabric of your life, you will be able to make today your masterpiece. You don't have to worry about those missing pieces or that incomplete puzzle. When you do that, tomorrow will take care of itself. Okay? Remember, it's too late for yesterday and you can't depend on tomorrow. That's why today matters. So that is all I have for the program. We got about 5 minutes left. So if anyone has any questions, please feel free to jump in, or if you have any comments or your own experiences you care to share on any of these subjects, certainly welcome that. My contact information is up on the screen. So if anyone wants to reach out to me that way, you're more than welcome to as well.
Great, thanks, Angela. As I told everyone in the beginning, I've allowed everyone's been unmuted. If they want to participate in a conversation here, you'd have to unmute yourself before you can ask a question or engage in the conversation. So make sure you do that. So now is a good time to do it. I think we may have a comment that has come in. Just saying what a nice job you did today, Angela. So thank you very much. So is there any thoughts, comments, questions for Angela? Well, it looks like they're a quiet group today. So maybe still thawing out from the last few days here. So
either that or they're pondering.
It might be pondering. You know, the big rocks discussion kind of hits home. We always talk about what are your big rocks here, and especially when we get new people and they kind of look at you like, well, big rocks. Well, what do you mean? And we always say what what are those, and those are those priorities that you have. And I always remind people that there's only one person in the office that can change your priorities, and that's me. So don't especially when we're working with a volunteer group like we do. We have plans in place for the organization, but we have volunteers that actively engage themselves in the organization, and sometimes they have other ideas that don't quite match kind of the direction that the board set and that sort of thing. So I always say, okay, let's talk about what are those things that are important to us moving forward on our strategic plan and our tactical plan for the upcoming year. So it's always a good way just to keep people, keep focused on what's truly important to the overall organization, because only through them we can, accomplish those critical activities that we are involved in. So, so it's always a good reminder.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it, what it comes down to, especially if I have any fellow procrastinators out there, it's just, even just a simple practice you can do is just, what can I do today that I would normally put off for tomorrow? If you catch yourself, even something as simple as laying out your clothes the night before, or, like I've been setting up my coffee the night before, things like that we normally would push off until the next day. It's incredible how much more smoothly a day can go, or how much more calmly your day can be when you don't have all those extra distractions, even of little piddly things like coffee or whatever. So I think it's just also getting in the habit of just saying, okay, if I'm about to put something off, or if I catch myself saying, no, I got till next week to do that, or if you have the time now, just do it now. It makes just a huge difference. So
we always say start every day with a victory. If you say, I'm going to get up at 5:30 to exercise, get up at 5:30 and exercise, because if you lay in bed because it's too cold or something, then all of a sudden the first thing you did, of your day, you're defeated right away. So start your day with a victory, and move forward from there. So you don't want to start on a bad out bad every day. So
absolutely.
Okay, well, I think we're at 9 o'clock, or pretty close to it. So again, Angela, thank you very much for presenting today. Great programs. We have recorded this. This will be online on our website, archived probably by early afternoon today. So if anybody wants to go back to it, we'll push it out to others. So again, thank you very much, Angela, for joining us. Thank you all for tuning in and listening, and we will catch you all very soon. Thanks for attending.
Bye, everyone.